And we're live.
I'd like to call this meeting, this special council meeting of April 19th, 2021 of the Town of Lincoln Council to order. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Easton, Mayor of the Town of Lincoln and Chair of today's special council meeting. We're meeting electronically through Zoom during this declared emergency period. Members of the public may observe the proceedings by accessing the live webcast at our YouTube channel. The Shononton people have called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recently, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon tree territory. We would like to acknowledge the enduring resilience of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who call this territory home. Madam Clerk, would you please complete a roll call to confirm everyone's attendance as we are holding this meeting electronically and to confirm quorum.
Thank you. Mayor Easton,
Present.
Councillor Rajima.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Russell,
Here.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes, I'm
Councillor
here.
Brunet,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Here.
Councillor Miklick,
Here.
Councillor Timmers.
Here.
Thank you. And Councillor Reimer.
Here.
We have quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I would also like to take a moment to welcome the staff we have joining us today electronically. Chief Administrative Officer Mike Kirkopoulos will be joining us momentarily. Director of Finance Administration and Innovation, Lawrence Wagner. Director of Special Projects, Kathleen Dale. Director of Planning and Development, Matt Bruder. Manager of Municipal Law Enforcement, Mike Barkway. Director of Community Services, Shannon Mackay. Fire Chief, Greg Hudson. Director of Economic Development and Communications, Paul Giuliani. Manager of Corporate Communications, Liliana Busnello. Director of Public Works, Dave Graham. Manager of Environmental Services, Jillian Harris. Climate Change Coordinator, Shannon Fernandez. Deputy Clerk, Devan Kripp. Moderating and clerking the meeting today, we have our Town Clerk, Julie Kirkelos, and IT staff are in attendance. And also joining us this evening, Regional Councillor Foster from the Niagara region. As this is a virtual meeting, I will ask that we follow some procedures during the electronic meeting. Should there be a connection or a service disruption for the chair, or if quorum is lost, the chair and or clerk will call a 10-minute recess to reconnect and to regain quorum. If quorum is lost, the meeting will be adjourned. If connection is lost from the chair, Deputy Mayor or the Vice Chair will resume the meeting. Once reconnection is achieved, the chair will assume their role. Each member of council who wishes to speak, press the raise hand feature on your video call, and the clerk will track our speakers list today and then invite you to speak when I open it up for comments or questions. Also, when I finish reading a motion and announcing the mover and seconder, the clerk will then call a vote by reading each member of council's name out loud. Please remember to take yourselves off mute during this portion of the meeting so that you can confirm if you are in support or opposed. And also, when not speaking, please remember to put yourself on mute. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Reimer, I do have a note here from the clerk regarding item 15.1, bylaw 2021-29-Z559 being a bylaw to authorize the temporary use of certain lands for a use prohibited by zoning bylaw 93-14-Z1 as amended of the Town of Lincoln, Owen Barkway. You have declared this interest in the past, and I'm just reaffirming it. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor Easton. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'll move on now to recognitions and achievements. Our next item, and this is where we'll see the reappearance of Mr. Kirkopoulos. Our next item is to recognize award recipients for the Fire Department's Long Service Awards that will be presented by our CAO, Mike Kirkopoulos, and Fire Chief Greg Hudson, who will introduce each staff member. Mr. Kirkopoulos and Chief Hudson, would you please proceed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to begin tonight by first introducing Ron Schmidt. Ron Schmidt started with the Lincoln Fire Rescue Service in 1990, and he served throughout his entire career at Station 6 Fort in Jordan until his recent retirement last September. Ron received his 30-year bars from the provincial and federal government. And we would like to thank Ron for his service as a longtime member of Fire Rescue Service. And thank you very much, Ron.
Our next recipient is Bill Cole. Bill started with Lincoln Fire Rescue in May 1995. Bill continues to serve the residents of Lincoln as a firefighter at Station 6-4 in Jordan. In May of 2020, Bill received his 25-year medal from the provincial government. We want to thank Bill for his continued service as a longtime member of the Lincoln Fire Rescue. Thank you, Bill.
Next, I'd like to recognize Deputy Chief Bill Blake. Bill started his service with Lincoln Fire Rescue in May of 1995 and continues to serve the residents of Lincoln in the capacity of Deputy Fire Chief. In May of 2020, Bill received his 25-year medal from the provincial government, and we would like to thank Bill for his service to the community. Thanks, Bill.
And last but definitely not least, Rob Bucknell. Rob started with Lincoln Fire Rescue in January of 1991. Rob served the residents of Lincoln as a firefighter at Station 6-2 in Camden for just over 10 years. After leaving the fire service for a short period of time, Rob rejoined Lincoln Fire in May of 2010. In January of 2020, Rob received his 20-year medal from the federal government. And so today we want to thank Rob for his continued service as a longtime member of Lincoln Fire Rescue. Thank you, Rob.
And Chief Hudson and CAO Kirkopoulos, on behalf of council, I want to acknowledge the long-standing service of Ron Schmidt, Bill Cole, Bill Blake, and Rob Bucknell, and the individual and collective influence they've had over the high standard of service that's delivered to and that protects this community. Thank you, gentlemen, for your many years of service and dedication to our community and for keeping us safe. Thank you. On behalf of council, we'll move on. Announcements by members. Do members have any announcements? You have 3 items, and you would just indicate. Madam Clerk, start us off. I believe it's Councillor Patrieva.
That is correct. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Just a reminder that May 6th at 7 p.m. is going to be Community Care of West Niagara's Every Bowl Full, a COVID-friendly fundraiser. There'll be a bowl coming with items that have been donated by various sponsors. It's not too late to become a sponsor or donate a door prize, and you'll be featured in the Every Bowl video. So just go to CCWN's website. Tickets are $100 and you get a tax receipt for that $100. So a great fundraising initiative for our community. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And I believe Councillor Vinchima, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to provide an update from the chamber and some events that are coming up. This Wednesday is Mayor Easton's virtual State of the Town address. That's April 21st at 1 p.m. online, of course. Mayor Easton will reflect on the challenges and successes of the past year during the pandemic and share details on exciting town projects and initiatives. The Chamber wants you to know that this is a free event to participate in. There are sponsorship opportunities available. Your logo will be displayed at the beginning of the Zoom event, and you'll be recognized as an event sponsor. If you haven't registered for the mayor's lunch and not sure where to find the link, just let me know and I'll send it to you. And also another reminder that the mayor's golf tournament is coming up. The dates are May 31st and June 2nd. 2 separate days as it was last year in light of the COVID restrictions. It worked out very well. So the same arrangements are being continued for this year. Thus far, there are options for playing 9 holes only, but my understanding is that there isn't a huge uptake. So if that interests you, then jump in now or forever hold your peace, because there has been discussion about potentially replacing those options with an 18-hole option if there isn't much uptake. Again, same with the mayor's lunch. If you haven't received your link to register for the golf tournament, let me know and I'll send it out, although I know Andrea sent it out just the other day to everyone. There's some really good sponsorship opportunities. There's a $1,650 platinum sponsorship opportunity, an $1,150 gold sponsorship opportunity, a $500 silver sponsorship opportunity, and a $150 community partner opportunity. Once again, it's being held at 20 Valley Golf and Country Club on Yonge Street in Vineland. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Benjamin. And I'd also like to tag on that there will be for the mayor's annual State of the Town, there will be an American Sign Language interpreter who will be participating as well. Thank you very much. And
Wonderful.
Go ahead, Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. So to celebrate this week of National Volunteers, which is the 18th, April 18th to the 24th, we raised the Scouts flag today down at Town Hall. And I'd like to give a little shout out to the Scouts tonight. They've been just moving through the entire time, the last year or so, and doing amazing things online with their little beavers and scouters and all kinds of fun activities. And I want to wish them all the best as they launch their Grade 8 challenge with Survivor Man this week. So for the next 8 weeks, they're going to be doing very specific Survivor Man challenges with rewards of, certain badges at the end of it. So pretty exciting. And I'll be joining them this Thursday for Silly Cooking online. So just a shout out to our Scouts for all that they do for our youth and children in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Timmers. Madam Clerk, I don't see any other hands.
No.
We'll move on then to item 7.1, Special Council Minutes of March 29th, 2021. Members of Council have any questions? I have a motion moved by Councillor Mikulik and seconded by Councillor Reimer. The Council approved the minutes of the following meetings of Council. Special Council Minutes of March 29th, 2021. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Brunei,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Mikulik,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries.
Thank you very much. Councillors, there are no delegations this evening. Item number 9, there are no presentations this evening. And we do not have any items that have been brought forward for consideration at this time that would have been part of the council information package. We'll move on to recommendations from standing committees, and we're now considering the following. Item 11.1, Committee of the Whole Workshop, minutes of March 31st, 2021. Item 11.2, Committee of the Whole Workshop, minutes of April 6th, 2021. And item 11.3, Committee of the Whole, minutes of April 12th, 2021. Do members have any questions? There being none, I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson and seconded by Councillor Brunei that Council approve the following recommendations from standing committee. Committee of the Whole minutes of March 31st, 2021. Committee of the Whole workshop minutes of April 6, 2021, Committee of the Whole minutes of April 12th, 2021. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Thank you, Counselor Brunei,
Yes.
Counselor McPherson,
Yes.
Counselor Miklik,
Yes.
Counselor Pachariva,
Yes.
Counselor Reimer,
Yes.
Counselor Rajima,
Yes.
Counselor Russell,
Yes.
Counselor Timmers,
Yes.
and Mayor Easton,
Or
and that carries.
item number 12 is the notice of motion, and we're now considering item 12.1, which is the notice of motion previously brought forward or announced by Councillor Pachariva and endorsed by Councillor Reimer. This was first introduced at Special Council on March 29th and now for consideration. Councillor Pachariva, please go ahead and speak to the motion.
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship. So a climate crisis helps to raise the profile and urgency of collaborative action by individuals, businesses, communities, and all levels of government. It acknowledges the global scale of the economic, health, environmental, and human impacts of climate change, and recognized international research indicates the world needs to massively reduce carbon emissions in the next 11 years to avoid further and devastating economic, ecological, and societal loss. By declaring or acknowledging the climate emergency/crisis, Council is recognizing the catastrophic changes to the world's climate caused by human activity and resulting in a loss of safe climate, which threatens all forms of life on Earth. Council is also committing to tackling climate change by taking urgent action at a scale and speed that will restore a safe climate. And if all can remember, when we received our climate plan from staff, this is the first action that helps endorse that plan and set the wheels in motion. So that's why Councillor Reimer and I, in consultation with Ms. Fernandez and Ms. Harris, along with professors from Brock, from the Living Lab, crafted this motion.
Very
And
good.
it's pretty self-explanatory.
Thank you, Councillor Pachariva. Do members have any questions?
Oh, Your Worship, one, if I may, because I wrote a note here. It's very strategic. So, and then granular items will fall out of it, but you need a strategic framework. So, thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much for the clarification. Do members have any questions? There being none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachariva and seconded by Councillor Reimer. Whereas climate change is already having an impact on global economies, communities, and the built and natural environments, and whereas climate change remains the most significant global threat to the quality of life and security for current and future generations, and whereas the most recent report by the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, has indicated that within 10 years, to keep the global average temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius and maintain a climate compatible with human civilization, there must be a reduction in carbon emissions of about 45% from 2010 levels, reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2050. And whereas bold and collective action at global, national, and community levels is required to effect change, build resilience, mitigate future threats, and ensure a prosperous future for generations to come. Whereas the town of Lincoln understands that climate change and a low carbon transition also represents an opportunity for economic stimulation and job development opportunities in a new low carbon economy. And whereas on July 22nd, 2019, Council of the Town of Lincoln passed a resolution supporting the development of a corporate climate adaptation plan. Whereas on March 29th, 2021, Council adopted the Corporate Climate Change Adaptation Plan. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Lincoln immediately declare a climate crisis, and for the purposes of recognizing the urgent need to take action to mitigate the effects of climate change and to deepen the town's commitment to protecting its economy, ecosystems, and community from climate change. And one, that the town of Lincoln officially declare a climate crisis for the purpose of joining a national and international movement consisting of a growing list of 509 municipalities in Canada and 1,918 municipalities in 34 countries. And two, that our CAO and staff be directed to work with other local area municipalities and across Ontario to make our climate change initiatives permanent. And three, that council acknowledges that the climate change crisis poses a real serious threat and comprehensive changes and investments will be required to adapt to the impacts of climate change, mitigate climate risk, and prepare for our climate future. I will now ask our clerk to call out the vote. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to note that Councillor Miklick has his hand raised. So we are ready to take the vote, Councillor. Is there something that you would like to address through the mayor?
Thank you very much. Just my apologies. I didn't want to interrupt while the mayor was reading the motion. I was a little bit slow in raising my hand and we jumped to the vote pretty quick. So I just, with regard, is it too late for me to ask a question at this time or?
Councillor Miklick, a straightforward question of clarification would be appropriate. We are past that on the agenda, but please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just, in the motion, is it typical or would it be appropriate to have the definition or what is a climate crisis within the motion?
Madam Clerk, I'm going to, where is the CAO? Mr. CAO, I'm turning to you because I don't want to arbitrarily decide who the best person is to answer that question on definition.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to members of council. I mean, you know, we do have our staff here that, you know, both Shannon and I think Jillian that are here. Definitely, I see Shannon that's here that may be able to address that. Councillor, I think to your question, is it typical to include what is a climate crisis within a motion? Typically not. I think the entire preamble and the whereases really do speak to the various elements of climate change and a climate crisis. And so I would say, I think typically what we try to do with motions from a procedural standpoint, and I look to our legislative staff to correct me if I am wrong there, but I think the whereases really are that opportunity to highlight in fairly great depth as we've done here, what is a climate crisis. And I think you're never likely to find a definitive definition of these things. I think for various communities, it means various things. There has been a declaration of these, I think, as we've highlighted, both globally as well as across Canada. And I think as we talked about at the last meeting, the phraseology often of emergency versus crisis versus something else does differ slightly. But I think the phraseology is less important than is the intent of the motion. But I'll look to Ms. Fernandez if she's got any comments she wants to make on the actual definition, Councillor, if that's what you're asking. But procedurally, no, I don't think it's typical to include a definition of this.
Go ahead, Ms. Fernandez.
Through you, Mayor, Madam Mayor. CAO Kakopoulos is correct in that there isn't necessarily a definition of what a climate crisis is, as that definition is, as the state of the climate and climate change is continuously evolving. The definition of declaring a climate crisis or emergency is in that action verb, in taking the action associated with impending climate change and committing to the committing to understanding and the evidence and the science that's involved with the changing climate situation or environment.
Okay, Councillor Miklick, keeping it short, does that satisfy?
Well, it's just whether like we're identifying a problem and we are taking action to address the problem. But I just feel as though, and again, it's just for clarification's sake, like, you know, what is a climate crisis within this motion? And I don't know if it's clearly defined in the whereas section of that motion. So that's just where I was seeking clarification. But if the clerk, in working with the clerk and working with staff, this is an appropriate phraseology, then I suppose the general spirit of the notion is being taken into account. So that just a formality. That's all. Thank you.
Councillor Mikulik, if you have an amendment at this time, we would entertain that.
I personally wasn't planning on adding a friendly amendment unless staff felt it was appropriate or staff thought perhaps it should be added. I was just ensuring that the motion was worded properly, as I'm sure that, you know, many municipalities will be looking at this motion and perhaps recommending it to their committees as well. So.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
Council.
you.
Now, Council, we have a little issue here. The question was out of order, Councillor Mikulik's question, and I mean this in a kindly manner. His question was out of order according to the process. Now we have two other councillors who have comments or questions. So Councillor Petrita has wisely taken his down. I'm now looking at Councillor Russell, and Councillor Russell, I'm going to afford you the same privileges I gave Councillor Mikulik, short and sweet.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be as short as sweet as possible. One question either to Councillor Pachariva or possibly to the CAO. It's about that phraseology he threw there at the end about the strategic aspect of what this motion inters. I just wanted to know exactly what we're committing to and what his thoughts are on that strategy. Again, in particular on point 3, where it requires us to accept and the comprehensive changes and investments in the future. That's the sticking point for me. So to Councillor Pachariva, I see his hand up. If you would.
Just a moment, Councillor. I'm chairing the meeting. Thank you very much for your question. Now, Councillor Pachariva, I'm losing patience with this process, which is falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
My job to keep it on track. If you have a short answer.
I do, Your Worship, and I prefaced my whole discussion with these were people much smarter than me that crafted this motion. And if we refer back to the original plan that we received, everything will be brought to us to investigate when it comes to a dollar spend. So this isn't anything omnibus here. Don't worry. It's a process. So thank you, Your Worship. I stand down now.
Thank you very much. Councillor Russell.
I'm out. Thank you.
I just want to make certain that you're reasonably satisfied with that answer. Thank you very much. You see, Councillor, this is what happens when you have a workshop and you find out where your shortcomings are. We're all obliged to do better. So thank you very much for your cooperation. All right, now, Madam Clerk, would you call out the vote?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Brunet,
Support.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Mikulik,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Breimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. We'll move on, councillors, to item number 13, which is reports of municipal officers. This evening, I would like to consider item 3.1, CAO Michael Kakopoulos to provide a verbal update regarding COVID-19. Mr. CAO.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and to all members of council, I did want to take a moment just to speak a little bit about the pandemic. I have worked with staff closely, and I think council is receiving regular updates. So I don't necessarily want to spend a significant amount of time talking about, I think, the general things happening with respect to COVID and the pandemic, but more to speak about an incident that occurred this weekend. And I really do want to highlight the incident first and foremost. I think and seek both, I think, council's support, which I know is there, but also our community's support for patients. And so, I mean, I'll start my comments by highlighting, I think that the pandemic, I think for all of us, has led to disruptions. It's led to sweeping changes in nearly every aspect of our life. And I think as we saw this weekend, things were announced, things were taken back, mandates were issued, guidelines changed, and they continue to change all the time. And I think collectively, there is a feeling of anxiety. There's a feeling of being overwhelmed. This weekend, I received a call from a mother, and she was calling as a concerned mother. Her daughter works for the security company that we employ, that works closely with our bylaw staff. And she was patrolling the skate park, which, as we all know, has been a very busy destination for our community. And the mother shared with me an incident that I did share with members of council over the weekend, and that is that her daughter was spat on. You know, I share that with members of council because I do hope those watching, those listening, those we talk to collectively, those we engage with on social media, also take an opportunity, I think, to exercise that patience. It is frustrating. I think it's frustrating for all of us. I look at my own children and the frustration they feel. I hear it from residents on a daily basis. But it is completely unacceptable that a young woman starting her first job was spat on because people are feeling anxiety and stress about not being able to skate or not being able to use a bike pump. So I share that with members of council. That is really the only comment I want to make relative to COVID. I think we need to be patient. I think we need to be patient collectively with one another within our community. And I think I promised this mother that I would share that with members of council and that I would share it with members of the media and anybody else listening. And so I'll leave my comments there, Your Worship. I don't have significantly more to share. Like I said, everybody's reading the same news clippings, the news articles. AstraZeneca recently has been made available to those 40 plus. I've been fortunate enough to represent our community in this council in West Niagara on the vaccine task force. So I think sometimes I'm more privy to information that's coming out there and some of the science and data that's out there. But I do encourage everyone, get as educated as you can about these issues. You know, everyone needs to make a personal decision. But again, I thank council for their indulgence and their patience in allowing me to maybe give you an update that's a little bit out of the norm for me, but one that I think is an important one to have relative to what transpired this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. I think that's a very disturbing account of what may be happening even more than we know, and we appreciate you bringing it to our attention. We'll move on then, council members, to item 13.2, which is the mayor's report. I had prepared this before I was aware of this situation that the CAO just mentions, and I believe that it's very, very well. So to the listening public, good evening, Lincoln, and welcome to the April 19th meeting of the Town of Lincoln Council. There are a few things that I want to say this evening, but we'll endeavor to stay focused on two issues. One is our focus on COVID-19, and the other is the upcoming State of the Town report. On the latter, this Wednesday, April 21st, the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce will host my State of the Town report for 2021. How Lincoln has weathered the last year is very much a collective story of individual impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, which covers the greatest potential and realization of business growth. And in far too many cases, a totally unexpected reversal of the entrepreneurial spirit. I will be delivering a snapshot in time of how our town and its business community is surviving, and many of the initiatives that Council has implemented for the well-being of all of you. If you're not registered to watch it live, you will be able to link it through the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce, and I encourage you to reach out to them or my office, and we can facilitate. And for those of you who didn't hear it earlier, there will be an American Sign Language interpreter participating in the messaging. In everything we can see ahead, there remains a message of hope And even now, with the limitations that have come our way this past week, including the expected reversals, there is reason to believe that where we can influence survival, there is hope for recovery. Council discipline is core to the strategic execution of our community development plans over the past 6 years and has ensured that the town of Lincoln had room to pivot to a stable place and bring the business community along with us and we with them throughout this pandemic. Being future ready is our mantra. And while the pandemic slowed overall private sector investment all over Niagara, the town of Lincoln is confident in the response of upper level government to our plans and projects, as well as the private sector throughout the pandemic. That continued confidence of our actions and our work with many other stakeholders who have common goals continues to reinforce that Lincoln remains a great place for you to live, work, and invest in the commercial, retail, and industrial sectors. Your role in the future success of Lincoln remains strong and is evident with the speed in which recovery is expected to take place. Shopping local and continuing to focus here at home, along with remaining healthy, are your most important jobs right now. For many months now, and over this past weekend, many of us on council have been posting words of encouragement and keeping you informed on many levels, with the hope that you will continue to make decisions that will keep you and your family and your neighbors safe and well, ensuring that no matter your decisions, we and our CAO and staff will remain available to support you within public health guidelines. While not everyone agrees with the provincial decisions that can't come, and sometimes fast and furious, we have a duty to respond. That doesn't mean we don't question them or reflect on them, but we must be patient with one another. We also know that the success of vaccination is a key element of a future return to good health, economically, spiritually, and physically. And we hope that you will also see vaccination as an option for you when it is your turn. I continue to believe that the combination of vaccination, safe work, and play are vital to returning to normal. It is clear that things are getting worse before they get better. And a number of the province's recent limitations related to international and national travel will be major contributors to a reversal in variant exposure and increased volatility of infections. We also know that there is no way to make a policy decision that does not affect someone else. As always, what is good for some at the same time is a negative for others. However, doing nothing is not a choice either. I also believe that locally we can reach an understanding within public health directives that will continue to allow safe activity. This is dependent on a healthy respect for others and their safety. It's not about taking sides or being pro one thing and anti another. It is about assessing what needs to be done and trying to make the best decisions possible with the best information possible. On behalf of council and staff, I can only caution against any behavior that may contribute to illness and the death of others. Let us respect those who every day put their lives on the line so that we can continue to be safe and cared for. Let us raise our awareness and sensitivities. For every deliberate violation, we are wearing down the physical and emotional resolves of all essential workers and those who contribute to the direct and indirect care of those who are ill for any reason, not just COVID-19. Our healthcare system has always been underfunded. Long-term care has not been seen as the high risk it has now shown to be. And for a number of years, a serious shortage of healthcare providers has been well known. When personal need wastes scarce healthcare resources, we become part of the problem and the shared grief that is becoming far too prevalent. At the present time, our lives are fraught with considerable inconvenience that the large majority of our citizens are willing to correct slowly and safely. Please continue to do your part. We are all here to support you. We hope that those of you who have other plans to respond to the pandemic can see your way to modifying behavior to promote a safer Lincoln and a safer Niagara. In the meantime, please take a look at Speak Up Lincoln to have your say. This new platform is designed for questions and answers, and is proving to be a great resource of reliable information and respectful conversation. Remember, you live in Lincoln, where everyone tries to be a good neighbor, where children are encouraged to achieve their very best, where adults and community leaders continue to set the best example for our youth. Stay healthy, help your neighbors, build a story into every day for the children in your neighborhood. And thank you for inviting us into your home this evening. And now I turn to Regional Councillor Rob Foster for his report, which was circulated earlier. Councillor Foster.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Easton, and through you. So yes, I do apologize to you guys, by the way. It did come a little bit late in the process, but just a few items that I had on it from our committee meetings last week. First of all, in the Public Works meeting, there was a discussion went through about the coverings that of course your council has sent back in and through, and starting a discussion on that. There's going to be more information coming to our next Public Works meeting, and a thorough discussion going on at that time. As well, this Thursday evening, I'm going to be putting forward, and in fact, it was through a notice of motion. There was a removal out of the previous, out of our budget, of broken and damaged recycling containers not being replaced. Yeah, I think it was a miss during our budget process. And so we're going to have a debate about that Thursday, or at least a discussion. Likely it'll get sent over to Public Works, but anyway, it's a starting point for that discussion. Our Public Health Committee meeting, we did have a discussion around Board of Health composition and governance, along with a very, very long public health meeting. It was one of the longer ones that I've been involved with. Anyway, I'm not going to go into any more details on that. Corporate Services, Niagara Health came in with a presentation for 44.1 million request for the South Niagara Hospital. One of the things that Mayor Easton and I are going to have a good look at with this is that part of the funding principles that were put in place was that the local area municipalities will be taking a bigger chunk of the payments towards a new hospital in the area than the region. This particular funding request is not that. And in fact, it will come in higher than what the other municipalities together are going to be putting in. So we need to have a good discussion with that, because it really doesn't meet any of their criteria that comes even close to what the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital or the St. Catharines Hospital had as well. There was a report came in regarding a funding request for Hospice Niagara. That's going to be very interesting because we've also received one from McNally House, as well as the town of Lincoln has received one. This is going to be interesting because where do you draw the line when it comes to various pieces of funding? Anyway, this is going to be a very significant debate coming up very soon at the region. One of the big things that came out of Corporate Services was a discussion around insurance and the premium costs that are being seen for 2021. I'm sure it's being seen in the town of Lincoln as well. There is a dramatic increase in costs that have come into play. Approximately $1 million more being spent on insurance for 2021, our new contract, than what was put in place last year. So, and it's very difficult for us to be going out and looking for new insurance options because everybody's high now. And in fact, it is not the right time to be going and seeking out new insurance groups. So anyway, long and the short of that is that it's a significant expense that's coming into play. The planning committee meeting, there was quite a variety of things that went on. Mayor Easton might be able to discuss better some of the planning issues. I missed the beginning part because of the length of the Corporate Services Committee meeting, but there were a number of updates on economic development that were brought forward to us. some of the planning that's going into play in and around economic development at Niagara Region. George Spezza is starting to get his legs underneath him within that department, and we're starting to see some very positive things. CAO recruitment, the next step in that particular process, we have actually a third party in place. And there was a survey sent out last week to the regional councillors for them to be adding in information in and towards the recruitment of a new CAO. Last but not least, I want to thank Councillor Russell and Councillor Renjima for putting up with me coming in on their ward meeting. Actually, I quite enjoyed the discussions that went on, particularly around traffic on King Street and Ontario Street. I do apologize to councillors McPherson and Michalek. Unfortunately, the evening that you guys had yours, I was not able to attend that. And so I'm not playing favoritisms, although Ward 1 is really a good area, but anyway, I do apologize for not attending yours. With that, I'm available for any questions, Mary Easton.
Thank you very much. As you mentioned it, Councillor Foster, I'll just mention that a significant item that came out of the planning minutes was in relation to the creation of the business directory, which has been long outstanding at the region and is finally complete. They're now in the process of getting it electronically available. And I actually have a copy in my office if anybody wants to have a look at a hard copy, but that's coming up, which is very good to see. And I would say the most significant discussion other than that was really around the official plan, particularly the natural heritage features. And possibly at some other point we could we can find out from the CAO what the plans are for those items to come forward. I believe that there are dates. Mr. Bruder probably knows when they are, but I'll just leave that for the moment. So, councillors, any questions of Councillor Foster? Go ahead, Councillor Michalek.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Councillor Foster. Thank you for coming tonight. As always, it's appreciated, your presence and update. Question I have, I see that there's a CAO recruitment, next steps, include a survey. What about, has there been any discussion amongst regional councillors with regards to director of planning, that position and that filling of that position? Especially now when they're going through a review of the official plan. What is the region's thoughts about how they're going to fill or when they're going to fill that position?
Through you, Mary Easton. So actually that position is in the process of being filled as we're speaking. There was a fair bit of discussion did go on at regional council. We were, when the discussion around filling the planning commissioner's position was being discussed, we realized that perhaps maybe we should have the new CAO in place first. However, it was felt by committee and by council that the commissioner of planning position would continue. And so that should be coming into play within the next little bit. So thank you for that question.
Appreciate your response. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't see any other hands. I have a motion moved by Councillor McPherson and seconded by Councillor Reimer. The council receive and file as information the following reports of municipal officers: the CAO's verbal update regarding COVID-19 and the mayor's report and regional councillor update. Madam Clerk, would you please call out the vote?
Thank you, Councillor Brunet,
Yes.
Councillor McPherson,
Yes.
Councillor Michalek,
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva,
Yes.
Councillor Reimer,
Yes.
Councillor Rajima,
Yes.
Councillor Russell,
Yes.
Councillor Timmers,
Yes.
Mayor Easton,
Support.
and that carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Council, we now have a motion to consider confidential items, item number 14. And we will now consider item 14.1, motion to consider confidential items. Before I read the motion and we motion to move into close, I would like to explain for the public what will happen to move toward this electronic meeting. First, there will be a closed session statement that the clerk will go through for all of council and staff that will be attending the closed session. And when that is completed, we will move on with the motion to move into closed session. The clerk will be turning off the live webcast during the closed portion of the meeting. And once we've completed the closed portion, we will resume with the live webcast and carry on with the public portion of the meeting, and we'll read the motions in public session. Madam Clerk, please conduct the closed session statement for all of council and others attending the closed session.
Thank you. All members are reminded that any discussions in closed session are to remain confidential as per our procedural bylaw, our code of conduct for the council of the town of Lincoln. Before we begin, I need each member that is attending electronically to confirm the following: that you understand that matters are to remain confidential, confirm that no one else is present with you, confirm no one else can hear this closed session, confirm that you're not using any electronic devices other than your tablet, computer, telephone for the video conferencing, and confirm that you're not recording this portion of the meeting. If you acknowledge all of the above, please reply with "I understand" and confirm to all of the statements as I read your name aloud. Mayor Easton.
I understand and confirm all of the statements.
Thank you. Councillor Rajima.
I understand and confirm all of the statements.
Thank you. Councillor Russell.
I understand and confirm all of the statements.
Councillor Pachariva.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you. Councillor McPherson.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you. Councillor Miklick.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Timmers.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Councillor Reimer.
I understand and confirm to all the statements.
CAO Mike Kirkopoulos.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Director of Finance, Administration and Innovation Lawrence Wagner.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Director of Economic Development and Communications Paul Deaney.
Understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you. Director of Special Projects Kathleen Dale.
You're on mute, Kathleen. You're still on mute. There you go.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you. Director of Planning and Development Matt Bruder.
Understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Director of Public Works Dave Graham.
I understand and confirm to all the statements.
Director of Community Services Shannon McKay.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you. Deputy Clerk Devan Kripp.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
And I myself, the town clerk, confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Rajima. Under Section 239 of the Municipal Act, notice is hereby given that council adjourned to closed session in order to address item 14.1 as follows. Item 14.1, pursuant to the Municipal Act, Section 239, subsection 2C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board as it pertains to Blizzard Drive. Madam Clerk, would you please call out the vote?
Thank you. I have Councillor Bernays' hand up at the moment.
Madam Clerk, I just was not mentioned, so I did not there. So just for housekeeping, can I just confirm that I understand and confirm to all the statements? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. All right, Madam Clerk, would you please proceed with calling the vote?
Thank you. Councillor Bernay.
Councillor Bernay, thank you.
Councillor McPherson.
Yes.
Councillor Miklick.
Yes.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yes.
Councillor Reimer.
Yes.
Rajima.
Yes.
Councillor Russell.
Yes.
Councillor Timmers.
Yes.
Mayor Easton.
Support.
And that carries.
Very good. Madam Clerk, please proceed then with the technical requirements to move into closed session.